Hey everyone, I'm here with Brittany Raphino, a rising sophomore on the Brown women's soccer team and 2019 Ivy League Rookie of the Year. Congratulations, Brittany, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So, first question. In high school, you dominated the soccer team. ISL accolades all 4 years, All-American awards, and countless other regional and national acclaims. How did you feel about joining a highly competitive collegiate program, knowing you'd be playing against competition that was much more difficult to face than high school teams?
I was obviously nervous because everyone was bigger, stronger, faster than I previously played. But I felt really confident in myself, that my coaches in high school and other people who trained me on the side were really helping me build towards success to get me ready to play at that top level. And I actually got to play against a lot of people who I played in the ISL because a lot of them actually went to Ivy. So it's good to see those familiar faces and kind of continue our battling, which is good.
That's awesome. So, what was it that made you choose Brown?
So I was looking at a lot of different schools in the area, but once Ivy League hit my eye, I was really dedicated on that. And so towards the end, I was kind of deciding between a couple of Ivies. And I just felt like Brown was different than those because, one, the coaching staff at Brown was amazing. I love the fact that I could be trained and be coached by a female Black coach. I was so excited for that. Kia is amazing, and I could really see that they were taking the program to another level. And then Brown itself, the open curriculum was perfect for me, especially I didn't really know what I wanted to do. It gave me a lot of leeway, and then just the atmosphere of the campus itself. Like I felt like a lot of other Ivy Leagues or the classic stuffiness, but I felt like Brown was so open and warming. I feel like I could really make it home there.
That's awesome. So, college ID camps are an excellent way for college coaches to identify potential recruits. Would you recommend any camps that high school soccer players should try to attend?
Yes. I wouldn't say to go around the world and fly to other country and fly to different places. A lot of coaches I learned going there that they go to other people's ID clinics. So at Browns, they had Holy Cross, BU, all these other schools from the area. So maybe if you're going to one, go to the one that you really want to push to go to, and see what other coaches will also be in attendance. So if you have two of your colleges at one, maybe try to go that one instead of going to each of their own, because they can still look at you the same as someone else's.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And do you feel that the Ivy League school coaches prefer to evaluate recruits at club tournaments and at showcases? And should high school athletes play for a top-tier club team in order to get recruited to Brown, or should they just play for their high school team?
I do think not just the Ivy League, but in a lot of coaches general, they like to look at the club sports. So ECNL is a big one, which I played for, and DA, which is a newer thing when I was graduating. The great thing about ECNL is that we have the showcases, like you said, and that's just a big basically tournament, and all these coaches get to come. So what I realized going to those was I would invite coaches and tell them my schedule and tell them where my games are and what location, and they would come visit me and see what I'm doing. And then other coaches who just happened to be walking by would stay for our game and see me, and I could get a lot of exposure that way from coaches coaches would reach out to me who I didn't previously email or anything. They just kind of saw me and picked up on that. So going to those showcases and being around all these coaches are a great way to get exposure.
Cool. So for you personally, when did you start reaching out to coaches, and how did you go about that process? Were you emailing, social media, phone?
I started my freshman year, before my first showcase. I started emailing coaches. I only emailed about 4 or 5 because I'm only a freshman. I wasn't really sure about what colleges I wanted. I was kind of just filling in names. And then after my first showcase, I just got a flood of emails, and that's when it really started picking up. And then depending on who emailed me back, who I got, information from, I would set up official visits to go visit the school and tour the campus.
Cool. When you started building relationships with certain coaches, how often would you communicate with them, and what sort of personal stats or information would you be updating them on?
Um, I wouldn't talk to them too often. I would sometimes they would reach out. The rules have changed since I was screening, but like they could call me or I could call them. I think it was. And so if they wanted me to call them, they would go with a whole loop. Like they would have to go to my coaches, and the coaches have emailed me, and then I would call them. But that would only be a couple of months, just to check in on me. And those conversations were just like seeing how I was in the recruiting process, seeing how I was on their school, and kind of keeping updated on my high school and club schedule. That's kind of it.
Cool. For an athlete who's trying to make a recruiting video, do you have any advice on how they can try and stand out, or like do's and don'ts for videos?
I didn't make a lot of videos for college, but the one I did, I made sure to highlight my strengths, like offense. I'm a forward, so I showed a lot of my goals, but it's not, you have to, for forwards, it's not just about the goals, it's about your movement and your passing ability. So I added a couple of those in there throughout it because I want to see you have the different dimensions of your game. That's really important for college coaches to see.
Okay, cool. Do you have any advice on how an athlete can stand out to coaches?
Mm. Um, Coaches love to see a hard worker. So I would say focus on that and try to just bust it on the field.
Nice. And what sort of a GPA or test score does an athlete need to play soccer at Brown?
That varies, depending on the person, because there's different systems on who the coaches support. It's just all really systematic. But I think for an Ivy, you have to be up there for GPA, like 3.9, 3.8 ish. And then SAT scores really just range, because the way it works at Ivy is you put all the recruits in one system, and like everyone's SAT score brings up or down the whole the whole commit group. So like you can have someone really low, but if you get someone really high, they can probably get in. So it all depends on everyone else in your class.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and so the Ivy League does not really grant athletic scholarships to athletes. So if a high school athlete wants to go to Brown but doesn't really have enough money for tuition, what are their options?
Well, all Ivy schools have the calculator, so that's kind of a good indicator on what you would receive in financial aid. And I know a lot of me and a lot of kids on my team, we were reaching out and getting scholarships to kind of bring the whole tuition down.
Cool. Were these local scholarships or were they academic? Like what sort of scholarships were you trying to get?
My coaches actually found some ones for me to look into. Yeah, a lot of them were sports related, from out of state. But some people I know got some from in-state looking out themselves.
Cool. Okay. And what would you say is the number one characteristic that a recruit should have to be a great Brown soccer player?
You have to have determination because the season gets hard. We had a great season, only lost one game, but even the wins felt like losses sometimes, and it was hard and hard to come back from. But the whole team stayed determined because we wanted to get that goal. We wanted to win Ivy League. We wanted to make it to the tournament. So coming back after a tough film session and taking next practice like it's a new day and being determined to get to our goal was a real reason why we had the success we had this season.
Mm. And you've kind of already touched on this, but what would you say is the most significant difference between being on a high school soccer team and a college one?
A couple of things. One, the fitness. I wasn't somebody who really focused on my fitness. I thought I could get away with like soccer fitness and being able to take my breaks, but to play in college, it's not just soccer fitness. You have to be running every day, running long distance, especially our team is a very big proponent on fitness. We have such a hard fitness test. If you don't pass, you can't start. It's crazy, but it's what makes us better. Like when we played a big team like Texas A&M, who we thought we had no shot, and we're just like, we're gonna go try our hardest, and we ended up tying them, which was felt like a huge win for us. A big reason why we could do that was because of our fitness test, and what our coach instilled in our heads about fitness.
I see. Awesome. And for you personally, how do you balance your academics and athletics? And like, what resources have you capitalized on at Brown to be successful?
Time management is a big thing. Um, we have such a hard schedule with soccer and then classes. Whenever we can, you have a break, you get what you need to do for that class or that time beforehand. If we have an hour before training, you see a bunch of girls in the locker room getting some work done, or in the training center while they're getting ice, like looking at the book or something like that. And the big resource I used was my teammates, because they've been there, they're going through the same thing. So they were helping me with different classes, helping me pick classes, navigate different professors. So they were huge for me.
Nice. And obviously, this is a super strange and difficult time for a lot of people. What advice would you give to a high school athlete who's trying to get recruited but can't compete at the moment because of COVID?
Um, Highlight films would be great right now, but especially people who are already getting looked up by colleges, I wouldn't stress too much, because colleges are looking at you for a reason, because they've already seen you. And so just keep in contact, keep the conversation flowing, make sure you guys are updating each other on what's happening, and just control what you can control. Like fitness wise, you can always still go out and run. You can always, even though you can't play as a team, and maybe train with some of your coaches, you can go in your backyard and touch on the ball, keep comfortable. So when you do go back, you can show that you've been working and been progressing, and college coaches will definitely see that hard work you put in right now when you come back.
That's great advice. That's awesome. So now just a few fun questions for you. If you could play any sport besides soccer, what would that be and why?
Track and field. I ran a little bit in high school, but had to quit because soccer is getting really heavy. But I love it. I was doing the 200, the 100, 4x1. We usually we use the track for our fitness test, and we're friends with a lot of track and field people, so it's really fun to see them be so successful. Yeah.
That's great. What's your go-to meal before a big game?
Um, it depends on the day, but usually if we have Saturday afternoon game, I definitely go for a breakfast sandwich, bagel sandwich with some meat, eggs, and a protein bar.
Very nice. And lastly, what is the funniest thing you've seen a teammate do on the field during a game or practice?
Uh, oh, when we won the championship, um, it was it was crazy because it was overtime, second overtime. We just got a PK, and the guy, my teammate who scored, was running. It was so high energy, but then she took her shirt off. It was like she was professional. It was awesome. It was so funny, like especially looking back at it, how funny it was, like having on the shoulders and she's in her Under Armour, like flexing. It was really funny. That was a great memory.
That's awesome.
Memory.
That's great. Yeah. So, Brittany, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for hopping on. This is going to be such an awesome resource for athletes right now, especially through
No
COVID.
problem.
Yeah.
No
Good
problem.
training and stay healthy.
Thank you.